One of the more frequent questions I'm often asked is really what do the most advanced and what do the best players in the world invariably do? Certainly when it comes, say, for example, producing distance. So more so from the movement observations, less so in this discussion around areas such as the ground reaction forces and the club kinetics. So looking more at the kind of muscle physiology, more how they move. Still one of the main observations, certainly I observe, for example, in the most advanced players on clubhead speed, is that closure rate, the rebound, the elasticity between the rib cage and the pelvis in downswing. So for example, once they've kind of almost created that separation in transition, how long it takes, that lovely elastic rebound, the closure, that extremely powerful recoil of that rib cage in downswing. So using an example, this is a 20-year-old that recently made his debut on the PGA Tour, and he was actually third in driving distance of that week. So this is a 20-year-old player, just made his debut on the PGA Tour. His ball speed throughout the week was cruising in performance at kind of 187, 188. So he was actually in the top three of the longest drivers at the age of 20. Ball speed's kind of 187, 188 playing speed that week. So looking at what these kind of most advanced players do, if we display on screen now some values, so you will see here we have a separation of that kind of lumbar spine pelvis relative to thorax in transition of kind of 20 degrees, which is fine. That's how much separation you have, and that's of value. But the real valuable part is the closure rate, the recoil, how long it takes for that rib cage to very explosively, elastically kind of close and catch up and rebound back onto that pelvis in transition. We have a closure rate here, and this is one of the highest I've certainly ever seen to date, especially in a 20-year-old, which isn't really yet got to full maturation and full development, of over 2,000 degrees per second. So the time it takes for that rib cage to catch up after that separation between the lumbar spine, pelvis and thorax in transition is over 2,000 degrees per second. So exceptionally explosive, elastic, that closure in that rib cage. So to give a comparable, we then look at another player actually played in the same PGA Tour event. It's kind of considered somewhere kind of in the middle. This player produces kind of ball speeds of kind of mid to low kind of 170, so kind of 173, 175 in tournament conditions. We look then, for example, at their closure rate, which is certainly more in line with typically often what we can see in players, of 274, so over 2,000 degrees per second compared to 274 degrees per second. So kind of how could that look in the player displayed on screen here, the kind of mid 170 ball speed? That rib cage, the closure of that rib cage is a little delayed, a little reluctant, a little kind of sticking to it. It's kind of loss of elasticity. But in the very powerful player of over 2,000 degrees per second, the closure, that exceptionally forceful, powerful rebound of that rib cage in transition is still perhaps, when we're looking just at the movements made, not so the forces in this discussion, more that kind of muscle physiology, the interaction, the segment movement, still perhaps, if this is an area we're looking to explore and gain in distance, exploring the closure, the rebound, the recoil, how quickly that rib cage can catch the pelvis up in transition is a wonderful area to play with. And certainly using the example of the player who played in the recent PGA Tour event, produced 188 ball speeds, it's still almost a single movement that I would see that connects back to then often the most powerful players, the most explosive players, and these movements then connect back to, for example, increasing areas such as clubhead and ball speed.